and welcome back to another episode of Real Spooky Stories. This is a non-judgmental space where I tell your strange and spooky stories. If you'd like to share your story, no matter how trivial you may think it is, please email jade@crypticcoven.uk, or if you head to my Instagram, it's just in the bio there, or you can just click the email button on my Instagram as well. This is episode 2, and let's get into our story, and this is from Hannah. The home that this story is about was my childhood home in Huyton. I lived there since I was born with my family. We then moved out when I was around a teenager. However, I moved back with my son, who's 3 years old, in December last year, 2023. I've since moved out of the house, but that doesn't mean I was short of activity during those few months that we lived there. These events I will talk about today are mostly from the time I lived there last year, rather than talking about all the things that happened during my childhood, although there are a few relevant stories sprinkled in from that time. My mum also had her own experiences in the house, which she is going to explain in her own words, but we'll leave that for another time. The houses along my street in Huyton are old, as they were the old quarry, and where my house is situated would have been the workers' houses from that time. After speaking to some of the neighbours over the years too, their houses apparently also have a lot of goings on. Before we go into the recent events, one thing from my childhood that I do remember is a dream I always used to have. In the dream, me and my older sister were outside and running away from something. We would run into the house and there would be a really old lady there. We would then run all the way up into the loft to escape this lady. I used to have this dream all the time. More on this later. One other thing from the first time I lived there that I remember is that me and my sister were both scared of the downstairs hallway. It always felt like there was a presence behind me in a particular part of that hallway where there was originally a doorway there that led to the kitchen. However, my dad bricked this up. So now on to the events that happened starting December 2023 when we first moved in. Mid-December, my son, who is 3, said that he had seen a witch on our roof. By the roof, he means the ceiling, and this was the same night that he told me the boy is upstairs. Just to note, the loft room was converted into a bedroom which me and my sister used to share, and one of the walls was a fully mirrored wardrobe. The day after this instance, we had a zebra toy in the loft, and it had moved. It was facing a different direction to what it was usually facing. I asked Lucas about this and he said that he hadn't moved it and that the big boy had moved it. He also said that this big boy was scary. The loft door is very heavy, so this would have been difficult for Lucas to open by himself. Some nights, Lucas also said that the little boy sits on top of his bed, meaning the ceiling area, and watches him when he sleeps. A few days after this, Lucas woke me up and told me that the little boy kept coming in his room and he looked like a zombie. He said he is around his height and he talks to him and comes in to mine and his room. He then went on to say about the boy that his zombie mummy walked up the stairs and she doesn't listen to me and she has toilet roll on her face. Around a week later, I was in Lucas's bedroom myself when I turned around and from the corner of my eye, I saw a little boy. He was a little bit taller than Lucas and was wearing a white ruffle top or shirt with black over it. It only lasted less than a few seconds, but it was the weirdest experience. Fast forward to mid-January and my cousin came around to the house. She can tap into energies and spirituality, etc., and she was aware about what I had been experiencing, so wanted to bless the house. She told me to wait downstairs and she went upstairs and done the thing where you stare into the mirror to see who is around you. Just a note on this, I think it's called scrying or something, scrying. Just a little note on this before I go back to the story. There is a thing, like paranormal or not, there is a thing you can do where if you go in, I think you have to be in a dark room, and if you sit in front of the mirror, I think in like candlelight or something, and stare into your face will distort and it will change, and this is real. Like, it's not a paranormal thing, it's just it is a scary thing when you experience it, and I will never do it and I don't want to, but it is a real thing. Like, literally Google it, but I recommend don't do it. because it's scary. There's lots of like paranormal sides of it, like horror stories and things where people have done it and they've seen like a really scary face and you can't get that image stuck out of your mind. So I recommend don't do that. But yeah, that is a real thing and you can't see things. But I think like paranormal people do it and they can see like the spirits in the house if they do it. But anyway, let's get back into the story. I just wanted to say that. While staring into the mirror, she said she saw an old woman and a couple who seemed to be looking for a child. She then said a gargoyle appeared and also a rose. Around the same time as this, a neighbour bumped into my mum and she explained to them what I had been experiencing in the house. This neighbour then got in touch with me as they knew a demonologist who I could contact. The demonologist who I then contacted was called Michelle and has actually been on the TV show This Morning as she owns the most haunted teddy bear along with other haunted items. Michelle was really good with me and had a thorough phone call before coming out to explain to me how things would work and what I should do or say if certain situations occurred. During this phone call, which lasted over an hour, the phone cut off a few times. The hallway light was on for the duration of the phone call, and as soon as we hung up the phone, the hallway light switched off at the exact same time. This was really freaky. I already didn't like speaking about the experiences I was having in the house, as it felt like there was somebody listening. So after this happening on the phone call, it made me really on edge. At the end of January, Michelle came along with another lady called Debbie. They had a big case full of items for them to use, and they blessed and filmed everything in the house. She told me to wait downstairs with Lucas while she went upstairs to do her thing. While we were downstairs, Lucas said to me, "Mummy, who is that boy sitting on our table?" I asked him what boy, and he said, "Oh, he has gone now." I didn't press this any further as I was scared myself. When Michelle came back downstairs after some time, she told me that she had been speaking with some of the ghosts that were in my house. One of them was a young boy. She said he was lost and can't find his parents. This made me think back to my cousin, seeing parents looking for their son in the mirror. Maybe this was their son and this is the son they were looking for. She said he doesn't want to leave your property, but he will give you no harm. Another ghost was a teenage boy. She said he died unexpectedly. He wanders through the houses along the street, not just my own, as he is lost. She said she knows this boy's name, but doesn't want to say it because it will be quite known in the area and it will be unfair to his family. As Michelle was speaking to him, this boy, he kept repeating over and over that he was dead and he had died, almost like a realisation that he wasn't alive anymore. This was really upsetting to me and Michelle, and she got quite teary-eyed as she was telling me about him. This boy wanted to leave and cross over, so she helped him do that. There was also a young woman who speaks really fast and interrupted them a lot. She also didn't want to leave the property. There was a really old woman who kept going missing. I think this means missing as they were trying to speak to her. Michelle said that she lives in the house, but she is in her own time and she doesn't know that we are here. This made me think back to the dream I used to have when I was younger about me and my sister running away from the old woman into the loft. Maybe in the back of my mind I knew she was there. Finally, an old man who Michelle says smokes cigars in the loft. This is interesting too, as I always smelled really strong cigars around the house, but mainly in the loft. It is not cigarettes, it is specifically cigars too. I can't actually leave my laundry in the loft to dry on the maidens as it ends up smelling of really strong cigars. There is also an image that Michelle took on her camera of the loft room and you can see what looks like a face in the side of the room. I have sent you this image, so please have a look at it. There is also another image from when I got my new front door where you can clearly see 3 faces. Michelle then left after blessing every mirror, window and door opening in the house. She helped some of the spirits cross, but the ones who wanted to stay, she said they wouldn't do any harm to me or Lucas, so she let them stay. Another occurrence I used to have in the house was that we always used to hear walking upstairs. I have video evidence on my phone of walking upstairs while only I was in the living room. At the start of February, a few more things happened, with Lucas seeing things around the house. He came to me one night and said, "Mummy, who is that in your bedroom?" And a few nights later, he said to me, "Mummy, everybody is sneaking around." I asked him, "Who is everybody?" In response to this, he said that the man come into the box room and up the steps to the loft. I asked him, "What does this man look like?" And Lucas just opened his mouth wide and said he was a massive one. And then he said it was just the man. I also had an experience myself after all of this. I remember I was facing the back of the house in the kitchen cooking, and I felt the feeling of somebody walking behind me. I turned around to look, but I didn't see anything. I know the feeling of somebody walking behind me, and there was definitely somebody behind me in that moment. Things did calm down after Michelle and Debbie had been. The only things I felt was the feeling of never being alone in the loft, and it still smelled of cigars. Although things calmed down, I did feel that things were still happening, so I contacted Michelle to come back again. However, she was really busy for the following months. This ended up getting left and she didn't end up coming back. She reassured me that the spirits who wanted to stay wouldn't interfere. I have moved out of the house now for a few months. However, I still have a lot of my things in the house, as my dad is actually the landlord and they need to visit often while they have renovations in their own house. If I ever need to go back now, there is always the strong sense of urgency to leave and constant paranoia, so I only go back if I really have to, but I do hate it. The house I am in now feels like a safe environment and free of spirits, and I hope it stays this way. Okay, Hannah, you've had a really hard time in this house, it sounds like. I just want to go back to a few things and have a little talk about them. So one of the first things Lucas said was that he saw a witch on the roof, which he meant the ceiling. This actually, I feel like this is the thing that freaks me out the most about this story, because as a kid, when you think of a witch, you think of the long green nose and pointy fingers and you picture a hag kind of. So for him to say a witch, it just makes me think of what did this witch look like. But also thinking about it now, it could be that old woman that you've had dreams about and that Michelle saw and everything like that. It could be that, but also why was she on the roof? Just stay on the floor, Then going back to Lucas saying about this little boy, I wonder what is this little boy, he seems lost, he's looking for his parents. But then Lucas said his zombie mummy walked up the stairs and she had toilet roll on her face. Well, I wonder what that means, I wonder what the toilet roll is, I wonder if it's a bandage or something. Or I'm not sure, but he also said that the boy was scary and he watches him when he sleeps. So maybe he doesn't look scary, but he just doesn't like the fact that there's a little boy there who he doesn't know, kind of. And he'd maybe just, obviously, I think anyone watching you sleep, if they were alive or not, would be a scary time. And then for you to actually see the boy, and also let me add, I don't know if I said this was Christmas Day. You sent me this and you wrote the dates and everything, and this was Christmas Day. So yeah, that's a bit weird to see on Christmas Day, but also is it nice? I don't know. But the white ruffle top with black over it makes me think old timey. I feel like we don't wear things like that now, especially boys. Little boys don't wear things like that now. But yeah, for you to actually see that with your eyes, even though it only lasted a split second, that feels like it will stay in your memory forever. Okay, on to what your cousin said about looking in the mirror. That is scary as well. I know what I said about the mirror thing and you look at your own face, but she said she saw a couple, so obviously her face probably can't turn into a couple. She must have seen these in the mirror, if that makes sense. So a couple that was looking for the little boy, that could have been the little boy that oh, well, it says a child. That could have been the little boy that was lost as well. So they were like looking for each other. But what made me feel a bit weird was the gargoyle. A gargoyle appeared. What does that even, like, what does that mean? Like, is that a good thing? Because gargoyles are on, like, I think they're on religious buildings to keep away spirits and stuff. So is a gargoyle a good thing? Or, on the other hand, why is there a gargoyle in your bedroom mirror, you know? And it makes me, I know by the sound of this, it doesn't sound like you sleep in that room, or Lucas sleeps in that room, and it's just used as like a storage room or like a playroom or whatever. But at the same time, it was your bedroom when you were younger. And I actually have been to this house because Hannah is my friend, and it didn't feel scary, but I know the layout and I can picture everything. And these mirrors were quite big as well, so I just can't imagine seeing anything in the mirrors. But anyway, this gargoyle, what's that about? Like, why is there a gargoyle in your bedroom anyway? You know? And also a rose, like, what does that mean? A rose? Was the gargoyle holding the rose? Was he just being romantic, you know? As for Michelle and Debbie, they sound really good, actually. And it's a shame that they were busy the next time you wanted them to come back because you felt like stuff was still happening. Because they do sound really good. And I'm just curious, like, did Michelle say they want to stay, so I'm going to let them stay? Or did she ask you? Like, did you have a choice in letting them stay? Or did she just say, oh, they want to stay, I'm going to let them stay? You know? But yeah, that's strange. But also, going back to Lucas as well, saying when Michelle and that were upstairs, who's that boy sitting on our table? Why, if he keeps seeing this boy, why would he ask who he is? Unless he just keeps seeing the boy and he's saying, like, in general, who's this boy that he keeps seeing? But I wonder if it was, like, a different boy to say, who is it, if you know what I mean? Yeah, it's also really sad about the boy who died unexpectedly, and I'm glad Michelle could help him cross over, because that does sound sad. And if she said that his name is known, I wonder if it's recent, like, not recent, but maybe recent enough that your neighbours might know of someone with that name or anything. And I don't know, I respect that she didn't want to say his name. Just imagine if you said this boy to your neighbours, oh, there's this boy in my house and this was his name, and then they start, like, trying to call him and stuff. Like, I don't know, I feel that was good respect from Michelle for this boy. Also, I'm curious about this young woman who speaks really fast and didn't want to leave. Like, who is this woman? Unless she is the couple that your cousin saw in the mirror and this was the young woman. Maybe. I'm not sure, but I feel like that's the first time you've mentioned this woman. Going back to the old woman as well, the dream that you used to have where you were running away from the woman, and it's in, like, the back of your mind, you knew she was there. It's weird how maybe as you were, like, a young child, like Lucas's age, you saw things, or you did see this woman, and that's why you always just dream about it, but you just don't remember it. Like, I feel like in a couple of years, Lucas probably won't remember any of this. And he won't remember the boy sitting on his bed watching him sleep, or the witch on the roof, or anything like that. I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just in the back of your mind. But this woman also doesn't sound nasty. None of the spirits sound nasty as such, but this woman just sounds like she's living her own time. Maybe you were running away from her because she was kind of like, why is 2 kids in my house, you know? But yeah, she sounds nice. And just lastly, the cigar smell. Imagine smelling that all the time and you know that you don't smoke, or there's no people smoking cigars in your house or even near your house, or like where it would get into your house. Like, that's a strong smell. And especially if it's affecting your clothes and it's not like a phantom smell, it's a real smell. If it's affecting your clothes, isn't it? So, yeah, I'm not into that, to be honest. Lucas also said one time that about the man, and he said he was a massive one. What does that mean? And he opened his mouth really wide. What does that mean? Like, on TV and stuff, when you see horror things, they always have a big wide mouth. But why? But the fact that Lucas probably hasn't seen anything like that on the TV, and then for him to actually do that, it's like, what is Lucas seeing? You know? But I'm glad I'm not Lucas. And you must have been so scared throughout all of this, and I'm glad that you are in a house now where it's safe and it's nothing like this. And the fact that you have to still go back to this house now and then, and your family will still be in and out of this house, is a bit scary. Like, I wouldn't want to go back either, but yeah, I'm glad that the house you're in now is safe and a nice environment for you to just be rid of it all, and also for Lucas too. So yeah, I'm glad about that. But thank you for sending your story, Hannah. I enjoyed that story. It was a long one. And as I said before as well, Hannah's mum also has her own experiences. She has actually sent me them now. So that will be the episode after this one. So don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and listen to both of the stories so that you can kind of imagine this house. I feel like this house could be on like a haunted tour kind of thing. No, but honestly, thanks so much for sending your story, Hannah. And thanks so much for listening today to the podcast. If you would like to send your stories, please email jade@crypticcoven.uk. Also, follow on Instagram, realspooky.stories. And if you click the email button in my bio, that will just take you straight to the email. If you just like note everything down, you can literally just copy and paste it over to the email, and I can read it out for you. I do have a few stories coming up, but I would love to hear your real spooky stories, no matter how trivial you think they are, even if it's like a little dream you had or just a weird experience in general. But I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you next episode. Bye.